But there's also two flip over sheets which have a very simple question. If you, as a professional, either in the museum or as a professional, are working on the issues that you hear these 2 days, what would this toolkit have to contain for you? So what are things you'd expect of a toolkit helping museums and ICAs make better connections? So leave your thoughts about this toolkit downstairs during the coffee, and we'll use them to shape this product.
That would be how I would understand this, but I'm a lawyer.
You can put a line, and separate object and other people,
But on the
parties.
Yes, and we have people, because claiming is something that belongs to people and groups. Sure. I mean,
yeah,
no,
but it's
I'm not-
related to objects. I mean, if you separate them now, then we try to.
In the same way as the person who is teaching them has learned it.
That's formal and moving target, do they go together?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because generation also is something that's moves.
So that would be also the definition aim.
The aim is
Your
something
vision?
because I think it's really targeted to. Is your aim to revitalize within the community that surrounds you, or would you say, I have a part of my collection, and that's related to Canada, for example, which I want to revitalize, and it's something that comes.
Ma scarso perché sì che what about if the intangible culture refer to is only immaterial.
Language.
Is how can we protect the first phase? But if it's a language, the problem is to register. Okay.
But I think
Perhaps to film it.
And have it at the moment, but you can also film.
yes.
And you can even, put it on social media, and as a way also to to start a discussion with a wider group who maybe
We can
yeah
make promotion outside the museum in virtual spaces.
How
The other
Yeah.
way, sorry, but we see the object as the first step that it
Il
can.
museo è luogo di partecipazione o presidio di...
Ma soprattutto che cos'è un oggetto e cos'è una collezione. Cosa accomuna 6 studenti indonesiani, un gruppo di ragazzi di diversa provenienza, un artista e 2 curatrici di museo? Sono domande
sono tutte domande
fondamentali, importanti. È sufficiente presentare un solo punto di vista sul patrimonio?
No, infatti. Bello.
This is proving more difficult. I mean, one of these safeguarding measures was transmission, right? This is formal transmission or informal. I don't know. There's some work to do. There's some work to do there. We're going to invert the roles. So, in the next minute, the student will be the teacher will be the student. Think about something really valuable about your work, your life, your ideas, your beliefs, your religion, your values, whatever, and share it with the other person. The minute starts. It has to be the good one. The minute starts now.
I think we found our love. I think that's we recognize another dan ook doen om onderzoek te maken. Je hebt altijd vaste groepen waar je mee kunt. Dat hebben we als speciaal vast om te zien. Dan zie je de eerste ja, gestuurd. In dit geval hebben ze mij daar naartoe gestuurd, maar naar scheepsbouw. En dan scheepsbouw met een vrouw, daar waren een hele grote passion. De mensen die heel technisch zijn.
Okay, Silent Fox is back. The Silent Fox is back. That's it, school's out. School's out. Silent Fox. Good. Who learned? Again, the Dutch Germans were the last to stop. What did you learn?
I learned about preservation.
What did you learn about preservation?
That it is a very difficult concept and that one have to think about how this former idea, which was transformed into the safeguarding term, can still be a part of safeguarding. And that would be to ask what are the key values maybe, what is of a specific ICH element. And for instance, with St. Martin, in the St. Martin Festival in the Netherlands, it would be the key key value of sharing. You know, that is something intrinsic, which the bearers of the ICH would like to preserve. But the ritual could be very dynamic around this idea of sharing.
Thank you. Huh. What did you learn? Wait, what did you learn?
I learned dance rhythm. Voilà, ça fait comme ça. Ta 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 ta. Voilà. And this dance, people dance in the past at home to I don't know in English.
The ground.
The ground, yes, because the ground of the home was made on earth. So
You still dance it. Fantastic. A dance. Thank you. One more. What did you learn?
I learned that we should consider museums as one of the last outposts of the welfare state, together with hospitals and schools. And so the deontological approach of an operator in a museum context should be that of being aware of the fact that he keeps and it gives expression to the right to have access to the cultural heritage from the antiquity to our days.
Thank you. Okay. I promised 2 steps, and I also promised Kia that we'd be at lunch at 1:30, but I'm going to take 5 more minutes. And this is the second step. I don't know if it's going to work, but it's an idea I have. Remember, we're working on a toolkit. And while listening to you preparing these documents, I heard that there were a lot of stories that are probably part of this toolkit, and that may not be captured here, and maybe they are captured here. Now I want you to think, did you have a particularly good teacher just now? Was any of the teachers, you said, this is really, wow, this is somebody who in 1 minute can explain something difficult in a compelling, beautiful, engaging way. And this is really an excellent teacher. Who had an excellent teacher? Yeah, there were some excellent teachers. There were some that's it. Yeah. All right. You had an excellent teacher as well? All right. So all the excellent teachers, right? You can also just look at your neighbor if he or she was an excellent teacher. All the excellent teachers. Is there any one of you who's willing to come up here and being an excellent teacher who's just had practice in teaching something very valuable, want to teach all of us in 1 minute the most valuable thing to take away from the exercise we just did on the papers? Something that will be captured on video, I'm afraid, but which we may be able to use to transmit the ideas of this workshop. I know this is a big ask, and I will not force anyone to do this. Okay, so you may think about this over lunch. You may try and convince your teacher to do this. So go up to the teacher and say, you are a great teacher. In 1 minute, you did something amazing. Share this minute with the rest of us. We don't have to do that right now. The reason I'm saying this is some of you may be spammed on Facebook by this platform called Masterclass. Anyone has ever had that? It's a MOOC, so a massive open online course platform. They charge you 99 euros to get lessons in cooking or architecture or design or dancing or acting from the world's best actors and cooks. That's their business model. And it intrigues me because I'd like to hear Frank Gehry talk about how you build a crazy building. And I read an article about it not too long ago, which stood out to me, and it said they're pretty bad teachers, and you don't really learn anything about architecture by hearing one person talk about architecture. So it's not a really good platform. But the thing it does better than anything else on the internet is capture the skill and the craft and the ideas of these world-class craftsmen, world-class designers, and store them for posterity. And run away to lunch. We'll be back at? Oh no, there's a tour after lunch. All right. Thank you for your participation. Kia will make a lot of noise when we're supposed to make. So we can go down for lunch. Somebody will pick you up for the tour, and that will be in about an hour, 55 minutes or so. Yeah.
Buon pomeriggio, salve, ci auguriamo che la visita sia stata interessante, la visita al museo per chi di voi non l'aveva mai visto, alcuni di noi lo conoscono bene, quindi non hanno partecipato con voi alla visita. Apriamo questo pomeriggio con la seconda parte di questa conferenza dedicata ai casi di Inspiring Museums. In questo caso avremo circa 15, credo, non so esattamente quanti sono, ma sono più o meno 15 musei, divisi in tre tranche, diciamo. Nella prima tranche sarò io la moderatrice, della seconda tranche sarà moderatrice Katia Ballacchino, della terza tranche sarà moderatrice Vita Santoro. E abbiamo pochissimo tempo, purtroppo, ci è stato suggerito di tagliare ancora di più il tempo a disposizione, quindi io presenterò molto brevemente di volta in volta i singoli musei, i singoli progetti, dando veramente 2 righe di introduzione, e poi lascio la parola ai protagonisti, ai relatori, che avranno, mi è stato detto, 5 minuti di tempo più 1 minuto per chiudere il discorso. Queste sono le direttive, operative, mi viene da dire, che ci vengono dette. Quindi io comincerei da questo primo caso che voi vedete qui alle mie spalle. Non so se pronuncio bene, perdonatemi se faccio degli errori, il Parcum, non conosco Giulia Oertz, chi è? Eccola, perfetto, grazie. Si tratta di un museo che si trova in Belgio, lo dico ovviamente per i nostri amici italiani che non sanno probabilmente appunto dove si trova, ed è un'esperienza interessante questa di Parcum, dalla scheda che ci hanno dato, perché si tratta di un museo dedicato al dialogo al dialogo diciamo interreligioso, ma in realtà mi sembra di capire che il tema religioso è lo spunto per poi affrontare una serie di tematiche che riguardano il rapporto tra le generazioni, riguardano temi anche globali, insomma legati al contemporaneo. Quindi è un museo in realtà veramente un museo forum, no? Mi viene da dire un museo di relazioni, un museo insomma, che ovviamente parte proprio da un approccio partecipativo, di un approccio relazionale, direi più che partecipativo. E diciamo, quello che mi ha colpito della scheda è appunto l'identità di questo museo, che ha come goal, come fine, come mission tra le tante, quella di alleviare le tensioni sociali, no? Quindi mi sembra interessante questo tema, no? Sociale, così, che sta così forte nella mission di questo museo. Quindi io do la parola a Giulia Herz.
I will do. Like this. Okay, good. Now we've started. I will just introduce Parcum, the Museum of Dialogue for Religion, Art and Culture. So we are a Museum of Dialogue, as already said in the introduction, and what we try to achieve with this museum is the interaction between these global themes and religious heritage. Heritage is our anchor point. We always start from heritage. We are not a center for interreligious dialogue because there are other institutions doing these. So this is an important experience we have gained in the last months. What we try to do with this dialogue is dialogue between people who believe, who don't believe, between different religions and worldviews, because it's not only religion, you also have people with a humanistic worldview, and they are also included in the project. Try to stimulate engagement in the visitors of this various background, and also a goal we have for the museum is being an open meeting place. We've already spoken about that during the different sessions, museum as a place to meet, to do things. So, I will give you a brief introduction on the first exhibition, which was Unworldly Images of Seclusion and Liberation. This is an exhibition starting from our anchor point, religious heritage, and there the main question is, what inspires someone to retreat into a community, a cloister, a convent, to live according to these rules in history, but also today, and maybe today in a different form, because the church is changing and also society is changing. So what's the meaning of seclusion in religious life? But then, parting from this question, how is this the search for spirituality present in many people in today's society? They all have these existential questions like, who I am, where do I come from, what's my goal in life? And then we try to see what is the meaning of this silence in today's society, where we all have lots of noise, we have stress, we have burnouts, and it's a very actual theme. So how can silence have a meaning beyond religion and other worldviews? How can silence be meaningful, even not in a religious context? And so we started the project Dialogue of Silence. I'll show you some pictures of the exhibition. We just closed it, I'm sorry, but we will have another one coming soon, so I invite you kindly to Belgium to visit it. Here you see a work of Marlene Dumas. She's an artist from South Africa. It's called Jesus Serene. It's on the different faces of Jesus, and it's also a work that helps us to think now, what is this face meaning to me, or is it meaning something, or what do I see in it, as to have dialogue between the public and the objects. But we're not here today to talk about objects, but to talk about ICH. Well, the Dialogue of Silence, what happened with this activity? This activity already existed in Leuven, and it was organized by an interphilosophical dialogue group. I say group, not community, referring to what we've heard this morning. It's a group, and it's called Grenzen Bewegen Leuven. We have there representatives of the Baha'i community, but also Christian, Muslim, Hindu, Buddhist, and also persons from secular humanism who look for silence, but without a religious meaning. And they found out, by doing their activities, that silence is a common ground for dialogue. They have it in common. They all look for this moment. Some people pray, but other people, they just think, or they just have a moment for themselves, so it doesn't matter. Silence is something in common. And this living, this moment of silence together, brings connection and togetherness to the people. And then, well, they approached the museum. We didn't approach them, they approached us, so this is maybe an interesting thing to think about, how is this process working, to ask, can we have our dialogue of silence in your museum? And then we said, yes, you can, but we should have a connection with the museum. So why don't we give the people who want to go to the dialogue of silence the opportunity to visit the exhibition, and afterwards they can go to the dialogue of silence. It's not compulsive. If they don't want to visit the exhibition, they can just go to the activity. But it was an interesting experiment. So what happens? We have there 30 minutes of guided silence after visiting the exhibition. And then it is guided by the people of Grensbewegen, of this interreligious group. So they have some nature elements, well, things like that, but they do the dialogue of silence. I'll show you some pictures. Here you can see the picture of the museum. It was held on the attic of the museum. Another picture is of the dialogue of silence before it was held in the museum, because you see there are candles, and in our museum we have an historical building, there's a lot of wood. We cannot have candles. This was a bit point of discussion, but well, we managed. Okay, then let's talk about some safeguarding measures. How was the museum involved in taking safeguarding measures with this group? Well, I think doing it in the museum helped to widen participation. It was not just this closed group of Grensbewegen, but we also had some volunteers working in the museum. They just hopped in, let's see what it is. And we also had some museum visitors. They just came, they passed by, and they wanted to participate. So it was a way to have more people. Thanks to the educational program, we wrote to several universities that where people study from being a teacher of religion and of history. Involving youngsters is, I think, a challenge all ICH communities have, how to involve youngsters, how to reach young people. We improved communication on the, because it was also in the communication program of the museum, in our newsletter, on our website. At the same time, Grensbewegen, they also have their own communication. They have their Facebook and they reached more people. It was a way of self-reflection. I'll come to that in my last slide. And we could transmit skills. For example, the skill of organization of the dialogue, of the guidance was transmitted in the group of Grensbewegen. So it was interesting. My last slide. Was it only a happy story with only win-wins? No, we also have some challenges and some things to think about. I would like to share it with you, and maybe afterwards, during coffee or during dinner, we can think more, and you can also help me with this thinking process. What were the win-wins? ICH increases social relevance of the museum. We're not just there with our exhibition on Christian heritage, which is not, well, in today's society, many people have different worldviews, so it's a bit too small. But what I think was very interesting, that the participants reflect upon their own lives, starting from the objects. There was one lady saying, in the dialogue of silence, well, I like to live this experience together, because I saw in the exhibition that also before people, the hermits, they were alone, living this religious experience, and then they gathered into cloisters. And I also think that the social element is important to me. So people started reflecting, parting from the objects, and going to the activity. So it became like more living heritage. And then an important thing is that the communities, they feel the museum as their home. They come there and they are happy. They just, the first time they're a bit, you know, what am I doing here? But the second and third time, they feel home. This is important for us. And then I think what is important is also that the community is encouraged to reflect upon their own tradition. They think, how do we organize? Maybe we can change. Maybe we have to open up more to other groups. And this process of thinking we did together. This was for me actually the most interesting part. I will stop with challenges. We also had some questions. For example, the requirements of conservation versus the aspiration of these religious groups. The example of the candles and the fire. Yeah, when I talk with my colleague who's in charge of conservation, she will kill me when I put there a candle. So it's impossible. So we had to try to find a solution. We found a solution. We put an electric light, and well, everything was. They were happy with it. We had some internal discussions in the museum. Not everyone thought do we have to do this as a museum? Really, they can go to a church or to a mosque. Okay, so we had this process. What is the role of the museum? Because Friends in Norwegian, they're very open, they're a very nice group, and they also wanted us to think about their tradition, but should we also give our opinion on these philosophical and religious items, or should we just facilitate the room and leave them? It's a question. And last thing, a lot of dedication of the museum staff is required. We need time to build a relationship, it takes time, you have to know each other, sometimes it didn't work out at the beginning, afterwards it did. But this process, yeah, it was very interesting. So I will leave you with these questions. Thank you very much for your attention, and I'll give the word to the next person. Thank you.
Bene, mi sembra molto interessante questa esperienza di Parcum, mi vengono in mente diverse domande che lasciamo alla discussione, mi viene da pensare al silenzio come patrimonio immateriale in questo senso, oppure al museo come dire, luogo dove si produce un nuovo significato, no? Anche una nuova comunità, diciamo, patrimoniale in questo senso, no? Che si ritrova intorno a un tema che probabilmente nelle comunità di origine è affrontato e praticato in maniera diversa, no? E mi viene in mente anche di capire quali sono le comunità poi che sono coinvolte in questo progetto, ma su questo magari torneremo nella discussione. Adesso vediamo un altro esempio, un altro caso di museo. Siamo in Francia, a Lione, in realtà si tratta di due musei in un solo edificio, il Musée Gardagne, se pronuncio bene, e il Musée des Arts de la Marionnette, quindi siamo in casa, potremmo dire. Abbiamo Xavier de la Selle, non so chi è di voi, ecco lei, buongiorno. Oui, si tratta di un museo interessante, in realtà è un doppio museo, da una parte mi sembra di capire è un museo civico, no? Un museo locale, appunto della città di Lione, e poi abbiamo questa seconda parte del museo dedicato alla marionetta. Diciamo che la cosa interessante, della quale forse ci parlerà Xavier della Selle, è, diciamo, il ripensamento di questo museo, è un ripensamento delle collezioni anche in un modo meno classico, meno tradizionale, più invece interattivo e partecipativo.
Grazie. I'm going to try to speak English. I'm very happy to speak this afternoon about intangible cultural heritage, especially in this museum. I was very glad to visit this puppet museum, and I think it's easier for me this afternoon because everybody has already just visited this puppet museum. So what I'm going to speak about is could be easier to understand for you. I'm going to share with you my experience in the Gardagne museums, and how does it work? I have to push. Okay. So as you've been told, this Gardagne Museum is in fact a kind of double museum, which is actually in the same building. And first, I would like to have a few words to introduce, to explain the history of the Puppet Museum. I won't speak about the City Museum because it's another subject. So the Puppetry Museum was founded in 1921. At the beginning, it was just the History Museum, who was exhibiting a few puppets from the Guignol repertoire. And you have seen perhaps in the collection of this museum a few puppets, some puppets just over there, about Guignol from Lyon. And between 1946 and 1956, the first nucleus The first embrace was completed by some collections given by the National Museum of Popular Arts and Traditions in Paris, and from the private Leopoldo collection. And in 1950, the World Puppets Museum was opened to the public. And several years later, the building was completely renewed, and in 2009, the renovated museum was reopened with about 300 puppets, settings, posters, and repertoires originating from France, Europe, Asia, and Africa. And then, since... thank you very much. This is Guillaume. Actually, now our reflection is to consider our museum in another way, not only a place full of beautiful objects to see, to admire, but a living place where people can experiment, can understand what is really the art of puppet from the puppeteers and from the artistic point of view. So I would like to speak about three ways to implement these principles and ideas. The first way, about the museum, we would like our new museum to be where you can find very strong link with creation and practices of contemporary puppeters, with a new scenography which could invite visitors to discover the living art, where they can see, where they can hear, where they can remember and manipulate. And so it could be a way with this new presentation, to emphasize that art puppetry is a real intangible heritage. So how can we do this? There is we can speak about three ways of to work on this, the puppetry as an intangible art, intangible cultural heritage. First, the first way is to imagine a strong collaboration with a theater which is situated nearby the museum, and this theater is now ruled by a company, theater company specialized in genial puppets. And we work with public collections which belong to the city of Lyon. They are not collection of museum actually, but it is really public collections which they use to perform the contemporary plays. And they use puppets, they use settings, stage sets, and also the text of old plays, old theater plays. And we are now thinking about the mean of collaboration. Just 1 minute. Okay. Collaboration to think together about very complex questions. That is, to what extent the practice of the performance of guignol may be a real intangible cultural heritage, and is it really a heritage for people today? The second way is to involve the visitors in the permanent exhibition with two ways to do this. We try to go outside the museum with an outside operation. This is the collection of puppets I talked about before. And we will try to go outside the museum several times to ask people what they think about puppets, what puppets means for them today, and to use these conversations to influence our work about the scenography, the new scenography. And the second mean is to give voices to the public, to the visitor in the exhibition itself. So every day people can speak my fast sentence, my last sentence, and fast also. And The last thing I wanted to say is that we are in our new permanent exhibition, which will be open at the end of this year. We have decided to leave an empty space, an empty room in the exhibition, a space for yes, as I said yesterday. We called this room also the white room, to be available for artists or people who can put some puppets or whatever they want to say or to show. So as a conclusion, I would say that the museum, our museum, now feel responsible for the vitality of the art of puppetry, because I think that the sense of our action depends really of the existence of the living arts outside the museum. If you have not living art of this art of performance just outside other theatres, it makes no sense in the museum to continue to present in puppets in exhibition. So thank you for your attention.
Bene, ecco, anche in questo caso si aprirebbero delle domande che magari lasciamo al dopo. Ecco, questo rapporto del museo con il territorio mi sembra che sia uno dei temi più importanti, sul quale poi si sta un po' rifondando proprio anche in Italia il dibattito appunto sul museo del territorio e per esempio nel rapporto mi viene da pensare, poi si parlerà di ecomusei appunto proprio con il tema degli ecomusei, quindi sarei curiosa magari più nel dibattito di capire anche meglio qual è il progetto di rapporto proprio in sé con il territorio. Passiamo adesso invece ad un'altra realtà, questa volta forse più lontana geograficamente, il Norwegian Center for Traditional Music and Dance, che io sono andata a cercarmi anche su internet, però non ho capito chi era il responsabile, eccolo là, grazie. E non ho capito dove esattamente si trova, perché ho visto che siete nel forum delle ONG sul patrimonio immateriale, ma non ho capito la collocazione dove si trova, poi avremo modo di parlarne. Si tratta di un centro appunto dedicato alla danza e alla musica, che funziona come prima fase soprattutto con un archivio, il più largo, il più grande archivio del nord Europa di musica tradizionale e di danza. E probabilmente la responsabile oggi ci parlerà di un progetto di danza interattiva di questo museo, quindi un centro che non lavora solo sulla documentazione, ma lavora anche per aprirsi appunto a progetti di danza interattiva e di altre cose. Quindi lascio la parola a Ton Erlien, ho detto bene?
Thank you. My name is Tone. It's strange to pronounce that in English. Yes, thank you. I will present today my project, Museet Danser, a dancing museum. That's true. I'm employed by an archive or a knowledge center in Norway. We are situated in Trondheim, in the middle of Norway. And after graduating from a master degree in safeguarding of intangible cultural heritage and then specialized on dance, it's called Coromundus. I found that how do museums work with the safeguarding dance? And in Norway they actually do not do that. Most museums that deal with dance in Norway, they are open air museums, and they present dance in folk costumes as a performance for tourists. The same performance that have been for 300 years, or quite a long time. The dances are a fixed repertoire, haven't changed, and it's not the real dance in my point of view. So which kind of dance do I mean? I mean the social dances of Scandinavia and the Nordic countries, like the waltz, the schottis, polka, many of them we share with the whole of Europe, I think. So these were my questions. How can a change towards the aesthetics of social dance, instead of dance as a performance, add positive changes to dance dissemination in museums in Norway? So then we should include learning, participation and improvisation as the things that we disseminate. So how can these aspects of social dance contribute to new aspects of dissemination in museums in Norway? Like that of participation and involvement by practitioners, local dance groups, and through dance we explore different methods of doing this. So yes, dance can be heritage, it can be stored, it can be archived, recorded, but dance is as well a social practice and a social relationship with other people. And transmission is based on the heirs of the heritage. It's in your body. The one that knows the tradition is only there. You find the actual performance and the transmission of the dance. So which conditions are the best for transmitting this embodied knowledge in museums? And which institutional context is directional for this to happen or not? And how do we do this transmission inside the museum? So I created a project with 3 museums, 3 different exhibitions, and a lot of events. And I will tell you now about the second one, the life of dancing, the role of dance in everyday life at the Folk Museum. I will just briefly tell you about my center. So traditional dance and traditional music is viewed as a form of socialization. And the ideal process of learning to dance is in the informal way. Here are just some pictures of what we are doing. We are making interactive performances where the visitors come onto the stage to dance with professional dancers. We are teaching, we have lectures, and we do this local group communities. But I looked into what do the museums say about these methods. Nina Simone says something about inviting people into the museum to build stronger communities and bridging them to the museums. And also, of course, as we all know, the UNESCO Convention is an important directive for the democratic process. And I also looked at the occupational duration. I won't go into details of that, but it's to connect the institution of a dance institution to the logic of an exhibition. And then my professor and I, Ego Bakka, we came up with a new term, events of practice, that we tried out in a community house named Skogheim. And we had archive films, we had some recordings, old photos, a brochure, furnitures. But in the main dance hall, we left it open for dance groups to occupy it. The concept of occupying a community house. So every day for 2 months, dance groups came to this open-air museum and this community house to visit and to dance there. And we did not say any request of what they were supposed to do. They came and did their activities, and the visitors could join if they wanted, and we had some facilitators explaining. So here is some pictures. The house was filled with dancing from a lot of cultures, different types of dance in Norway. It was a very good moment when tourists came in and saw the life of the house. It was living, and the practitioners were doing their best to practice to do their practice, and to conclude from the museum's perspective. They are in no control, and they were facilitators of this transmission. This had to demand an open will and trust to let visitors in. So could this maybe be a method for disseminating dance in museums? Yes, I think that was it. Thank you.
Penso che sulla danza si potrebbe veramente fare un dibattito lungo, in quanto in Italia insomma, abbiamo una certa tradizione di danze tradizionali che però non sono poi museizzate, no? Quindi sono più legate o a contesti festivi ancora radicati in contesti religiosi, religiosi, eccetera, oppure di contesti di riproposta, ma legati ad associazionismi più spontanei, più locali, territoriali. Non abbiamo un centro nazionale, no? Come in Norvegia, cioè italiano sulla danza, anche se abbiamo specialisti, diciamo, di danze tradizionali, quindi è interessante vedere, insomma, i confronti e confrontarci. E passiamo all'altro museo, al quarto, al quinto, non ricordo, ne abbiamo ancora due. E in questo caso andiamo in Olanda, nella provincia di Limburgo, una città che si chiama, scusate la pronuncia, Venlo, non so se ho detto bene, cioè, bene, stavolta ho detto bene. Si tratta di un museo locale, di un museo di storia locale, quindi un museo civico anche in questo caso, però di un museo particolarmente dinamico che in qualche modo è destinato, mi sembra di capire, a utenti locali, ai visitatori, alle famiglie regionali, alle famiglie appunto del posto, che però appunto sta sviluppando anche esso dei progetti interattivi appunto legati proprio che mirano a coinvolgere poi la curiosità dei visitatori anche su una base emozionale oltre che intellettuale. Quindi diamo la parola a, adesso mi sbaglierò, Mater Benoit.
Grazie. So I have to switch in English now. Good afternoon. For 25 years, the Limburges Museum has given meaning and experience to the history and culture of the region of Limburg in the Netherlands. And as a museum of cultural history, all the information about our collection is received from oral history and academic research. At this moment, the museum is in a transitional phase. We are searching for ways in which to achieve greater societal relevance. How do we present not only historical images and objects, but how do we connect with them into a certain reflection with which we connect present, past and future? In our present day participation society, we search for new ways to involve the public in an active way. In 2016, I made an exhibition about dragons, and the initiative of this exhibition came from the foundation of dragon slaying in the village of Basel in the northern Limburg. Every 7 years in this village, this living tradition takes place, which has the status of Dutch UNESCO National Immaterial Cultural Heritage. And as a producer of the exhibition, I was confronted with the question of how to show, how to catch intangible heritage with tangible heritage in a museum. And it was interesting to see how some objects returned to the village even during the exhibition, how they obviously were part of the community and were part of a shared tradition and history. The Limburg Museum and the foundation of the dragon slaying joined forces in a collaborative project, the Dragons Project. And the aim of the project was to ensure knowledge, context and continuity of the dragon slaying for the future. The museum has chosen a participative approach towards ECH practitioners because we state that the scope of the museum is not only to remember, but also to create a responsible approach to the past, present and the future. Currently socially relevant themes with our knowledge and our collection of the past, we want to provide inspiration, understanding and thus insight. And it's the museum's goal to stimulate the audience in an intellectual and emotional way. We think this leads to action, because curiosity leads to consciousness, and consciousness leads to understanding. Understanding can develop into to care for, and that will turn into taking care of. Starting point of the collaborations was sharing facilities, expertise and providing a platform to expand knowledge and education in a wider range. We organized activities together with ECH practitioners to promote the visibility of this tradition and to involve young people with an educational program. As safeguarding measures, the museum initiated the development of knowledge of the phenomenon of dragons by joining the experience of academics in a new publication. And in this exhibition, the knowledge has been translated for a broader public, for young and old. The volunteers of the Foundation of Dragon Slaying and the Foundation of the Museum Basel, with the youth of the village, they were offered knowledge transfer and knowledge sharing. The project also offered a platform for international cooperation to strengthen contacts between the various ACH practitioners of the international dragon communities in Europe. The exhibition was made by the Limburges Museum and the Stam City Museum of Ghent in Belgium. This is a dragon city. Both museums learned from the course of events, experiences and performances of the intangible heritage, and it became clear to me that intangible heritage is allowed to be open-minded and is subject to change. However, each institute, the museum and the ECH Foundation, has its own identity and also its own vision about ownership of heritage, about tradition and innovation. This leads to my proposition today: who is the owner of heritage? Because experience from this project convinced me that tangible and intangible heritage needs the same perspective, the cultural biography of things. This concerns a life story, or rather a multitude of narratives about everything that has happened and is still happening today, viewed from a long-term perspective. It's a narrative construction in which traces from the past are used for further development. So 6 tendencies with regard to the museum visitors are distinguished in this narrative cultural biography of things. But I really think that these are not only important for museums and museum visitors, but also for ECH practitioners and their relationship towards their heritage. I sum them up very quickly. There is an ambition towards deboarding. The visitors' borders of institutions and disciplines are becoming less and less important. Second, visitors want to identify. They want individual stories that are more suitable to this than general stories. Third, culture is dynamic and layered, and it allows several interpretations of the same data. Fourth, there is an evolution towards audience-oriented instead of supply-oriented work. Fifth, heritage is both familiar, it's our heritage, but it's also it's a strange world. And sixth, there is no longer distinction between high and low culture. If we keep this in mind, these 6 points, the role of museums and also of ECH practitioners is not only to remember, but also to create a responsible approach to the past and tradition. Because heritage is not a concept, such as history, but an experience category. We need to document, to exhibit and to perform, but also to add new stories to the cultural biography of tangible and intangible heritage. And I think the cultural biography is a mean, it's a mental construction mindscape. It's a category in which all kinds of connections are made visible and brought into prominence. I really think this concept can help both museum and ECH practitioners in taking care of our tangible and intangible heritage. Because heritage is not only the result of collecting, preserving and conserving, it presupposes also an active transfer and a signification. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sì, poi nel dibattito magari mi piacerebbe sapere un po' di più dei draghi. Sono rimasta colpita dai draghi. L'ultimo museo del quale ci occupiamo in questa prima tranche viene dalla Svizzera, però a raccontarcelo è Anne-Louise Joel, che è danese se non sbaglio. Dunque siamo nel cantone dei Grigioni, un paese che si chiama Lumnezia, di 2000 abitanti, è un comune giovane, mi sembra di capire, nato nel 2014 dalla fusione di più comuni. Ed è un cantone un luogo nel quale si parla la lingua romana, in italiano si dice romancia. Io sono andata a vedere sul sito di questa Fundazion ed è tutto in romancio, purtroppo ho capito poco, però è stato interessante, perché è una lingua molto interessante, tra il ladino e ha delle connessioni con il ladino, con il friulano. Ecco, quindi lasciamo la parola ad Anne-Louise Joel che ci racconta appunto il lavoro di questa Fundazion, così si dice?
Fundazion de Cultura Lumnezia. Grazie viel. Io sto stassi, Pais, Schwastra. Buonasera insieme. Neo que eu vivo discurimos romanche. Patuna in tic school Italian, but I'm going to do the rest in English. I don't know whether it's going to be easier for you. I could also speak Danish. I am a Dane living in Switzerland, and I have a totally different way of working than what you have been presenting. That's why I'm standing on my feet. I like to tell stories. I'm not very theoretical, so it's going to be very low practical. What we're doing is we're trying to fill an empty house. We have a new municipality, a new political entity, and they decided to give us a house. Here, make some culture. So how do you do that? We have to define what is our culture. It could be something about language, it could be something about how the farmers work there, but of course farmers in the next valley work in the same way. So we're actually, we have very little structure and very little theory. We could apply a lot of theory, but I don't think it'll work because they're quite resistant to that kind of things up in the mountains. So what we did, we started from scratch and we looked something very simple. Last year we looked down, we found kappa. Not crap, but kappa. Krap is one of the oldest words in Romansh. It means stone, sasso. Of course, a very important word because you have a lot of stones. So it's something that everybody sees and everybody knows. When you live there, you have stones all around you. But what relationship do you have to a stone? Is it only a functional, a practical, or is it something where you have an emotional relationship to it? That's why we thought maybe that could be a good beginning, something very simple. And here you see an example of a functional stone, somebody using it to keep his window closed. This. Okay, I'll just move this here. As I said, the house is empty. It's an old farmer's house in a small village. And the only thing I have there is not actually very small, but it's a very big crystal. So that makes it, we have to be very creative when we start making exhibitions because there's nothing there, but we always invite a new curator every year to bring a new idea, and we tell them, okay, this might be relevant to us or maybe not. We have to sort of transform it into something where we can relate to it as locals. And we had this artist from Appenzell who's called Hans-Rudi Fricker, and he brought the idea, having seen that we have this very big crystal in there. And what we did was we invited everybody, our community or our CPI, whatever, integrated in the local society because they normally speak another language, they normally speak German. So it's very much us and them, and I try to involve them in this way. You have, everybody has a relationship to a stone, so everybody can take part, and everybody could also tell a story to it if they wanted to. So we have people bring a normal stone you find on a trek, on a vacation trip to the sea or whatever, and they could place it there. We placed it down on the ground. It's very cost effective. We didn't spend much money on it, and people could leave 2 words, 3 words, or small story. We translated it into either language. So you can tell it in German, we translate it. You can tell it in Romanian, we translate it. Where was it found? Why did they bring it home, and why did they keep it? And we have people bring crystals and interesting minerals, and we have people bring something, we don't know why did we pick it up, but it was something important that day for me. So we had some very emotional stories, some very private stories actually, and it was quite moving, and it was the effect that it had on the people, on the visitors, was very immediate and very moving. Safeguarding measures, they weren't really important to us at that moment, creating this exhibition, but we did make a booklet with all the photos of the stones and a selection of the stories. And why did we do it? It wasn't actually because we think this is a practice that you should safeguard. It was more to create a relationship between the house and the people living there, actually, because we're such a new house. So that was the primary scope, but of course, now I had some reactions to these stories that people could hear at home, and because it was so moving, they appreciated it a lot. And of course, I got a lot of contacts in that way. So now I can do a lot more participative activities in there because I have a lot of addresses. And I think that is basically what I would like to give to you, because a lot of other things have been said, and they've been said a lot better than what I can do. But I believe that everything you do participatively, you have to build up relationships. You have to go into dialogue with the persons. You have to speak their language, of course, and you have to talk to them, and you have to respect them and say, I have this idea, I think it's important. Is it also important to you? And we could see it with the stones. We had some people coming saying, it's not relevant, it's just a stone. Well, then read the story, apparently it's relevant, and then they start to understand. So it's something very, very simple and very, what do you say? Immediate, one-to-one, between human beings. Did I say what I wrote? You can ask me afterwards, drinking. Thank you very much.
Grazie. No, mi viene da pensare le pietre ovviamente come un materiale che comunque sicuramente appartiene al paesaggio, no? Appartiene probabilmente alle abitazioni, cioè le case saranno fatte di pietra, il paesaggio sarà caratterizzato dalla pietra, per cui mi piacerebbe magari durante il caffè oppure dopo, durante la discussione, capire quanto la pietra poi appartiene anche alle attività magari economiche, cioè quanto appartiene poi alla storia della gente, no? Perché sicuramente sarà parte dell'esperienza, no? Delle persone, quindi magari poi lo facciamo nella discussione. Che dire, è un po' difficile insomma, ricavare delle linee comuni. Io sarei tentata di andare alla seconda tranche, se non ha, vorrei solo dire una frase: from silence to stones, no? Ecco, mi viene da dire. E con questa frase, passando attraverso le danze interattive, le marionette e altre cose che adesso non mi vengono in mente, ecco. E i draghi, ecco, quindi mi sembra una bella metafora della complessità, ecco, dal silenzio ai draghi, le danze interattive, le pietre, insomma, ci sarà da discutere più avanti. Chi vuole fare delle domande? Non so se intanto do il microfono.
Io ho due considerazioni velocissime, tempo è poco. Quindi l'ultima questione, questa delle pietre. Mi è sembrata un'esperienza veramente interessante e in Italia... E torno al mio intervento di ieri sul senso che hanno gli oggetti, sul senso che le persone danno agli oggetti. Quindi la parte interessante del vostro lavoro mi pare proprio questo, cioè come le persone reagiscono alla pietra, che sembra un paradosso, ma in realtà invece apre degli scenari come dire, molto ampli sul senso degli oggetti. Noi abbiamo uno dei capiscuola della museologia, anzi delle fonti di ispirazione della museografia etnografica italiana, che è Ettore Guatelli, che sulla reazione delle persone agli oggetti ha costruito storie bellissime. L'altro tema invece, l'altra suggestione è sulla danza. Anche a me ovviamente colpisce molto, ho lavorato moltissimo su questo tema e pongo solo l'accento sul tentativo di superare la dicotomia forte, anche ieri ci siamo un po' caduti in un paio di interventi, tra folklore e folklorismi. Non è detto che quello che è riproposizione stilizzata sia qualcosa di negativo e invece quello che è, come dire, vivo e contemporaneo sia necessariamente positivo. Io per esempio, e qui mi fermo, sto molto di più con la scuola tedesca, con Hermann Bausinger, Elke Detmer, che in realtà costruiscono un ciclo progressivo tra folklore e folklorismi, cioè la riproposizione in realtà diventa, anche se stilizzata, diventa forma di nuova tradizione, quindi non creerei una gerarchia di valore tra, come dire, innovazione e riproposizione del folklore, perché comunque la riproposizione sta sul piano dell'innovazione al medesimo punto.
Molto rapidamente sulle pietre, e prendendo appunto quello che è già stato detto, è un tema sul quale abbiamo lavorato anche noi come museo, e mi viene in mente proprio questo tema: se le parole sono pietre è vero anche il contrario. È vero che le pietre sono parole, nel senso che rappresentano poi un lessico, no? Sul quale andare ad indagare, come già stato detto, il rapporto con il proprio paesaggio e l'utilizzo stesso della pietra. In questo senso diventa poi alla fine elemento di appartenenza sul quale poi, come è già stato detto, appunto, innescare anche dei lavori successivi proprio sulla percezione del paesaggio, sull'utilizzo dei materiali tradizionali e sulle tecniche di lavorazione. E quindi ecco, anche secondo me questo può essere veramente un bel tema sul quale continuare a lavorare anche proprio con le comunità locali.
Ma non voglio aprire una polemica né un dibattito, però in questo stesso posto 20 giorni fa Pietro Clemente ha detto testuali parole, diciamo, ripeto testualmente, che lui forse quando a suo tempo analizzò le pratiche cerimoniali, la rifunzionalizzazione di alcune e la riproposta e la messa in scena di alcune feste in Toscana, non aveva ben presente quello che stava succedendo negli altri posti d'Italia, e cito proprio il tuo lavoro, quello su Sega la Vecchia. Quindi dovresti parlare con Pietro, secondo me.
Pubblico però. Dico pubblico.
Allora, molto interessanti tutti gli interventi, e rispetto alla pietra, io penso che la pietra sia un elemento veramente fondante del rapporto uomo-terra-materia, del rapporto dell'identità e dei luoghi. Quindi questa rifondazione di un luogo attraverso la pietra, per esempio, è una cosa che accade spessissimo, e in Abruzzo da me c'è un santuario molto antico, rifondato su un antico santuario della Dea Venere. E nel chiostro dei frati sono state sistemate tutte quelle cose residuali di pietra che sono state rinvenute nel tempo come appartenenti al vecchio santuario, quindi parcheggiate, senza, proprio che in un ordine casuale. Negli anni tutti i pellegrini e tutte le persone che visitavano e visitano questo luogo hanno interpretato questa presenza di pietre che però lavorate dall'uomo, quindi erano frammenti di colonne doriche, frammenti di capitelli, come qualcosa di una presenza di tangibilità. Quindi tutto il chiostro è contrassegnato da cumuli di pietre non lavorate dall'uomo, ma pezzi di quarzo, pezzi di mattoni, pezzi di conci, di tegole, dove ogni persona che ha trasportato mette il luogo di provenienza e la data. E mi ricorda un po' quello che è un'operazione antichissima che si faceva e si fa ancora quando c'è un incidente per strada. Adesso si assiste, no, a questi. Una volta, se andiamo a vedere le testimonianze dei folcloristi, chi passava di là depositava una pietra per un seppellimento simbolico e per una forma di testimonianza di passaggio. Quindi si apre un dibattito su questa cosa. Più che una domanda, capito, sono considerazioni.
Intervento, quello su Parcum, che ha trovato un estremo interesse ma anche difficoltà, e la presentatrice però ha mantenuto il riservo, cioè alcune delle cose che sono dette qui sono in certo senso di prima linea, come fanno a farlo? Cioè, capisco che il tempo era poco, ma data l'altezza e la difficoltà dei temi affrontati, mi pare di estrema difficoltà, il servizio verso le comunità, in che senso distingue tra un tipo di cosa e l'altra, e perché, cosa che mi interessa particolarmente, che ovviamente mi vede estremamente interessato, usa invece che richiamarsi genericamente a comunità, gruppi, CGI, come dice il nostro Mark, usa il termine heritage community, che a dire il vero in queste 62 pagine troviamo molto poco, quasi nessuno dei gruppi si è presentato come avente relazione con le heritage community, quindi mi interessa moltissimo.
Thank you for your question. I try to respond. Well, first question, how we do it? Well, I think we've worked a lot with our team, so that's the first thing. Many hours, also evening, weekends, but we have a team with a lot of dedication and passion, so that's important. And then how to make choice on the activities, or because of course we also have a platform in the museum where we try to have people with expertise on different religions, worldviews, heritage, and we try to really have their input to make the choices, because then participation is only real if there's also participation on the level of policy, of decision making. In this platform, we chose to have people on basis of expertise and not like a representative, because with religious communities it's very difficult. You cannot have one representative of Christianism, you cannot have not one of Muslim, of Buddhism, then you need 20, 30, and even then, I mean, it's too complicated, and so it's the first thing, very important, this platform that helps us in decision making, giving priority. We only have started also with our museum, so we're really looking how to do it, how to live the dialogue, but it's a starting point, and I think especially working today with religious heritage, actually I don't see another, maybe yes, I don't have to say it like that, but I think working on religious heritage, you have to do it with an open mind, because this heritage is so much more than just religion. It has also a cultural background, it has iconography with symbolism, it can give meaning to people's life even without institution or without, so I think this is very important. And then why do we speak about heritage communities? Well, as I said in my presentation, we work with religion, interreligious groups, we work with traditions, but there are already many institutions working on religion, interreligious dialogues, and they do fantastic work, but we are not an institution like that, we are a museum. So heritage has to be our anchor point. We have to start from the heritage. It can be objects, it can be intangible heritage, but there also has to be, well, heritage as a starting point for the dialogue, because if not, well, then you are another organization, and we don't want to replace these organizations. So I hope this answers less or more your question. Thanks.
Penso che passiamo adesso alla seconda parte. There is coffee break. Okay, great. 15 minutes coffee.